All right, guys. So let's talk immigration because if you have industries and railroads, you need workers. And one of our biggest changes of the Gilded Age is that we need labor, which means we need immigration. And we need cheap labor because we don't have enslavement anymore and we've killed all of the Native Americans or forced them to become white Americans by sending them to boarding schools. So we need somebody else to exploit. So who better to hire than women, children, and new immigrants? Because these people are the least likely to fight back against unfair practices, right? And there are no labor regulations, so you can really just kind of do whatever you want. You can pay them what you want, you can make them work as long as you want, and as long as they're not fighting back, you're good. They will fight back, but not yet. So we get a second wave of immigration during this Gilded Age time period, and I know you're super disappointed I don't have any Legos to show immigration, but it is going to really change how America is made up and what it means to be an American during the Industrial Revolution. And so we had our old immigration, which is pre 1880s, and it's mostly what the American Civil War was drafting with the Irish, Northern and Western Europeans, and Germans. But after the Civil War in the 1880s, there's a lot going on over in Europe, and they're bringing themselves to the brink of World War One. There's a lot of contention between the former empires, and Germany is becoming its own country, and Italy is becoming its own country. So a lot of people are going to leave that area. And so we get new immigration here in the US. And our second wave here from 1880 to about 1924, we really see a shift in where our immigration is coming from. It is now coming from Southern and Eastern Europe, places like Italy, Poland, Russia, and on the West Coast, we see a massive shift of Japanese and Chinese immigration, but we're going to cut that off real quick. Now, as with any immigration or any story of travel or leaving a home, there's always reasons. There's always push factors, which are things that push you out of your country, and there's always pull factors, things that pull you to somewhere new. So push factors are typically negative. And again, like I said, there's a lot going on in Europe. So there's a lot of poverty over in Europe. There's a lot of oppression, especially religious oppression. Nativism and nationalism are becoming really big concepts in Europe, and they're starting to determine who is and who isn't part of a certain country. And that's going to push people out too. There's not a lot of employment opportunities. There's a lot of war, and there's a lot of famine. So those are all big reasons why people would leave. And why do they come to the United States? Why don't they go to somewhere else in Europe? Well, they've been told there's a lot of employment opportunities in the United States. It's always good to find work after a war. It's always easy to rebuild a civilization for work. It's not easy to rebuild the civilization, but if you're looking for work, that's usually where you'll find it. There's more religious freedom in America than there is in Europe. Some of them have family and friends who are already here, and the concept of the American dream has been created by the Gilded Age, which gives off this illusion that America is going to be the place where you can go to become what you want to become. And you may not be able to do it in Europe, but you can definitely do it in America. So we see a huge shift in immigration trends. Southern and Eastern Europe goes up in the 1900s by thousands, tens of thousands. And Asian immigration really doesn't go anywhere at all because we won't let them in. Whereas Northern and Western European immigration kind of trends downward. And we will look at that a little bit more in depth later. But with immigration, you also get this new concept of what it means to be an American. So if nationalism is taking off in Europe, nativism is taking off in America because now we are well removed from the Revolutionary War and we're out of the Civil War. So there is this belief that to be American, you have to be native-born American. Now, obviously not Native American native-born. We're talking native-born former Europeans. And there is this deep belief that native born Americans are superior to immigrants because they've been here longer. And they seem to forget that they were, not too long ago, the immigrants themselves. And we will see a lot of anti immigration laws that go into effect during the Industrial Revolution and all the way through the first half of the 20th century. And we really don't undo those until like the 1960s. And even then, we're not really undoing them. But there is this concept in the 1880s to the 1900s that America is a melting pot. Everybody comes to America, their cultures, their beliefs, their languages, everything, and they all get stirred into one big melting pot. And that's what makes America great, right? Is that America is the melting pot of cultures. But if you really want to fit in, you have to become American. You can't keep that culture. You can blend it in with America, but you cannot be Polish anymore. You need to make sure that you are leaving your Polishness behind. And you don't want to dress like you did in the old country. You probably don't want to speak that language anymore. If your religious beliefs are not Christian, or Jewish, like you probably want to make sure that they're not too standing out too much because you won't fit in America. You have to assimilate. You are expected to adopt to the customs and the language of the culture in America and leave your culture behind. And if you don't, you will find yourself targeted as an enemy or not American, and that will become a problem, obviously, for a lot of people. Um, we will see it especially with the Chinese immigrants in the Gilded Age in the 1880s. And then when social Darwinism and the concept of race takes off, it just gets, if you can believe it, even worse than it was when it was just, European Americans versus enslaved and Native Americans, because now we have all these other groups that we're going to target, and we're going to make it scientifically proven that it's okay for us to do these kinds of things. So our next video, we will visit social Darwinism and the concept of race and how it is created, and then we will continue into immigration laws and all the effects that that has on the community during the Gilded Age.